going on? Welcome back to another DualShockers discussion. Before we get into our topic today, I'd love to introduce myself and the people on our panel today. My name is Peter Hunt Spitek, and with me today is the one and only Cam Hawkins. How are you doing, Cam?
I'm doing great today, actually. We're recording this on Saturday. Joe Biden has been projected to win the election, and we're, as far as I'm aware, we're all Biden supporters here at DualShockers. So
Yes, we are.
It's a great it's a great day. It's a great day.
I totally agree. And also with us today is Ryan Meitzler. How are you doing, man?
I think the important question we have to answer today is: do the assassins indeed have a creed?
Not anymore.
I mean, technically, based off the time of where this game takes place, there is a creed. So,
well, that's exciting. As Ryan sort of just mentioned, we're talking today about Assassin's Creed Valhalla. All three of us have started playing it. Cam, you finished it, right? Because you're doing the review for us at DualShockers.
So at this point, I've played 60 hours.
Oh my gosh.
In the past number of days. Well, I actually can say by the time this goes out, so I got the code on Friday. What date is that? The 31st on Halloween. Yeah, so I got the code on Halloween and I started it the next day. So I basically have been playing it nonstop for a week straight. There's a lot to this game. I began kind of playing it how I like to play my Assassin's Creed games, and that's kind of like the checklist system. Like, all right, did I get everything that I need to do in this one area before I can need to go on to the next stuff? And then I realized pretty quickly, I was like, I can't do that for this game with reviewing it based off of the deadline and stuff like that. So I have started to more or less mainline the game. I have I want to say 2 or 3 arcs left. So I'm getting there. I'll definitely beat the game by today. Right after we finish recording this, I'm gonna finish up the game and write the review. But I can say that I do plan on giving this game a 9 out of 10.
Okay, great.
So I honestly really wanted to give it a 9.5, but it just had too many issues for me to justify it that I just couldn't do it. But this is a really good Assassin's Creed game. In my opinion, this is the best Assassin's Creed game since Assassin's Creed Brotherhood for me.
Okay, awesome. That's sort of what I wanted to ask as well. And then Ryan, what are your general thoughts on it? Because I personally, my sort of history with Assassin's Creed is that I liked the original ones. I liked the first one, the second one, all the way pretty much up until 3, I started to realize maybe this isn't very good, and then 4 was great, personally, in my opinion, and then the rest I have actually actively disliked. But I am surprised with how much I like this game. So Ryan, are you positive on it, or how are you feeling about it?
So far, obviously, Cam is way further ahead than me, so I can't really speak to the end game stuff. But I've played about 5-6 hours of it so far, so I'm still really early. But so far, I'm liking it a lot so far. I think it's pretty good. I guess just in terms of my history with the series, I played a lot of the early games. I played 1, 2. I played 4. I've missed a couple of the ones in between. But I got back into the series with Origins, and I really loved Origins a lot. I liked the way that it took the series in a really different direction. I liked all that. And I'm in the middle of playing Odyssey now. I'm 15, 20-ish hours in Odyssey. So this one I think so far has a lot of those elements of Origins and Odyssey that I really like so far. And but it does so far from what I played have some new things that it introduces, I think, to separate it from those two. But again, I think I'm still really early, so I haven't necessarily seen everything yet. But so far I'm pretty positive on it. I think it's pretty good.
Sure, yeah. What's that?
I was just gonna say yeah, I think one of the best things about this game is that it kind of takes pieces of all the best features of previous Assassin's Creed games and put it all into one. It's really great, and then it still has those new things to give it its own identity. That it's really good. And I think Peter, you're gonna ask questions, so I'll leave it back to you.
Would love to hear all of your thoughts, because obviously you're the one who's probably the furthest. I've played I think my in-game counter is 7 or so hours. it actually, like, I messed up. I didn't understand necessarily how the saving worked in it. I figured it was doing autosaves. I was playing offline for a portion, and I ended up having to replay about 3 hours of yeah. I mean, it's not ideal, but the thing is, for me personally, if that had happened and I could have walked away and said, like, okay, yeah, I get what this game is going for. Not for me. But the fact that, like, I've actually really enjoyed it and continued and went back and got exactly, like, to where I was, I think kind of speaks about how much I'm actually enjoying this. Again, like I said, I haven't loved the past Assassin's Creed games. I missed Origins, but then I hopped on for Odyssey because, you know, everyone's saying, like, oh, well, it's kind of different than it has been with the way that the combat works and all that sort of stuff. But that game didn't, like, resonate with me basically at all. But for whatever reason, I am just loving this one. I really like the combat. To me, feels a little bit different than it was in Odyssey. Would you guys sort of agree with that?
Yeah, the combat is very different from, like, basically, I would say it's closest to Origins, but even then it's I think it's completely its own thing, and I think it's the best combat the series has ever had. And to go back to your point about Odyssey, I feel the same way. Like, I no offense to Ubisoft Quebec who made Odyssey, but I think that Montreal, because before this, like, basically, like, kind of my favorite Assassin's Creed games, like Origins was like my number 3 favorite Assassin's Creed game after Brotherhood and 2, and that was Ubisoft Montreal who made Valhalla. And I think that Ubisoft, like, Montreal knows specifically what older like day one Assassin's Creed fans are looking for in an Assassin's Creed game. Like, because for me, again, like, I wasn't a big fan of Odyssey. I didn't really like the combat. I didn't really feel like there was much stealth in the game. And I think, and, like, there was no, like, assassination conversations, like, kind of like in the White Room, like from the original series. Like, none of that is in Odyssey, but it was in Origins, and they made it super cinematic and great. And I think that in Valhalla, it's equally as good as Origins, if not better. So you can assassinate people now, like, straight up. And then for those that are, like, more like named enemies that aren't bosses, we'll get to bosses later. There's like a small, like, mini game where you just basically, there's like a circle closing in, and then there's a specific zone, and depending on, like, how tough the enemy is, it's, like, bigger or smaller. And if you get it in the zone, then it'll you'll auto assassinate. And I think that, like, even though it would be nice to just be able to, like, assassinate any old person, I think that based off of, like, Valhalla being an RPG and everything like that, and it's still, like, adding those type of statistics into the gameplay, this does make sense. And like, not being able to auto assassinate everyone, but, like, this little mini game that you do to do so is, like, very simplistic and in no way frustrating, that it makes it okay to me that, like, you can't auto assassinate like any old dude.
Sure. Are you all? I personally don't always love big open world games. I personally, I get a little stressed out when I see, like, a game that has, hundreds of hours of content. Not that that's bad, and obviously not that that's obviously so many people's thing. But for me, I always feel a little bit stressed out. But I think that the thing that makes Valhalla so great, at least for me, is that I think the world feels pretty lived in, and I think there's enough stuff to go around, and there's enough uniqueness that has sort of been lacking for me in past Assassin's Creed games. I think that it is not a I guess unknown criticism of the series or of a lot of Ubisoft games to say that a lot of them sometimes at release lack a lot of polish, and there's a lot of bugginess and stuff. But in my 7 hours or so, I really haven't come across that many bugs that were super, like, immersion breaking or anything like that. I mean, the worst that I had was, like, people fell through the floor at one point, but they weren't, like, they were just NPCs, and they weren't, like, I wasn't fighting them or anything. So it wasn't so bad. It was more funny than anything else. Have you experienced anything like that, Ryan?
I had some. So I'm playing on a base PS4.
Okay.
So obviously, I'm playing on a much older system, so I'm not playing it on like a PS4 Pro. And I'm kind of waiting because I want to play it through a lot of the game on PS5 once that comes in to see like how what the game will be like on a next gen system. I've had some where it's just like sometimes I've had Eivor like stuck on an object, like sometimes he'll get stuck on a rock or something like
Mhm.
that. And but again, like nothing. I think that's necessarily like kind of like the expected bugs you'd find in like an open world game like this. But I think just the one thing I want to say at least is like how you said how like the whole sort of like open like the structure of this game as an open world game. Like I do think that they did a better job. I think at making these like because the structure is a little different from Odyssey and Origins, where it's not necessarily like one giant open world map. It's more these like kind of smaller, more contained areas. So like you start off in Norway in the beginning. I just got to England, so now I'm around there. So I think they've done a better job at sort of making these like sort of smaller sub areas where there's a lot to do, but not necessarily having like an Odyssey, which has this like I remember when I first started Odyssey, it's just this giant world map with like
It's so
thousands of
stressful.
icons, and it was just
Yeah.
too stressful. So I think that they did a better job at sort of inviting you to like, you can go do these things if you want to, but not necessarily like, overwhelming in the way I think that Odyssey was, because Odyssey is very like sort of bloated and big, and there's just like too many things to do in that game.
Appreciate as well is that so the world map, when you pull up the map, it breaks things down into like treasure locations, other objects like of interest, and then also like world events, which can be a handful of different mission types, as well as like unique small little storytelling moments. I was I when I play these types of games, or at least the way I'm playing this one, I hop in the boat and I go where I'm going. And if there's something that catches my eye that's close by, I'll hop off the boat and go see what's up. I found this woman who was screaming that she needed help. Hopped out of my boat, go talk to her. I took care of the person who was like attacking her. Turns out that was her husband, and they were sort of into that, if you know what I mean. And the rest of the it's a really quick 2-minute sort of like moment, but that's not the kind of like copy paste mission that you're going to find throughout the entire world. It's the kind of thing that's like, okay, they put this one specific thing right here, and to me that's what makes the world feel a little bit more alive and lived in a way that sort of differentiates itself from other Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a on par comparison to like Red Dead Redemption 2, but it does feel more like that. It's yeah, the world events, specifically like the side quests where you're helping people, like some of them aren't super interesting in what you're doing. It does kind of feel like you're just kind of doing like an errand or like a chore for them or something like that. But they're interactions that feel real. Like they're interactions that you just be like, I can see this happening in this world. Like, because some people are just like, oh, like do this archery contest like with me, and like but then there's others that are just like, oh, my fox is like trapped in this burning building, and like, this person's the owner's like on death's door, so you're trying to save this fox, and like there's like this stray cat and things like that. And that's the thing that's really cool, is that there are like these side quests that you do, or these these mysteries that you do, where like the outcome will like make like someone come back to your settlement or something like that. Or like, again, like I found this stray cat, and then I ended up taking her along with me. Like, you don't like have to like carry it or anything, but like I didn't even notice this until like way after I did the quest, but like she's like just chilling under the longboat where Eivor stands. If you like pan the camera, she's just chilling there.
Oh, interesting.
And that's like, and she's just there for the rest of the game. And I'm like, is those small little details that make this world like feel much more immersive than previous Assassin's Creed games, and honestly than most open world games. But I would say that like the thing that still, and this is, I think that is an issue with just most open world games, I wouldn't say all, but most, is that like this still very much feels like a checklist open world game. Like, like, got to get all the wealth, got to get all the mysteries, get all the artifacts. All right, let's go and do the main story now. Like that type of mentality. But again, like I still think that the interactions with the mystery, with the side quest mystery specifically, feel like again, hit or miss like in what you're doing, but I think the more important thing there is that they made it feel real and it made the world feel real. So
to your point, I think that something that I really appreciate about this game is that I feel like my actions as the player have a direct impact in sort of what's going on. I haven't gotten to any like major big choices or like anything like that, but I don't think that this is the kind of game that really is wanting you to make big like narrative changing choices. But I feel like the way that you interact with the world, exactly what you said, Cam. You find a cat. Okay, well now the cat's hanging out with you, and you didn't have to find that cat, Or I haven't gotten super deep into the settlement building aspect of things, but obviously, you're going to choose to build the parts of your settlement that are going to benefit you in the way that you want to play. I'm really excited for whatever reason. I really like cosmetics in games and being able to change what you look like, and I've been finding these like tattoo papers all sort of scattered across different towns. And I'm really excited to build up the tattoo shop in my settlement because I'm excited to see what kind of different options I have for that sort of thing. Yeah, what's up?
Oh, I was just gonna say like, yeah, and I'm kind of like the opposite. Like I wasn't like really big into the tattoos. So like when I was building my settlement, like the tattoo shop was one of like the last things that I ended up, building, because I didn't really care much about customizing Eivor like that. So it's like, yeah, that's a great example as to like kind of like the differences based off of like the way you approach on how you want to build your settlement and like what order you want to do it.
Yeah. Do you, I'm curious about both of you, but I want to start with you, Ryan. Do you play, so in the game, you have the option to play as Eivor as a man or a woman, or there's like a default mode that I think changes throughout the story.
It like alternates between the two of them. Yeah.
Right. So personally, I've been playing on the default mode, and I've been Eivor as a woman for my playtime. What sort of, how do you two choose sort of which gender you play as, or is there a thought to that?
So I started out doing the default option just to see what that was like and just see how, like you said, like it just sort of like alternates. Like sometimes you'll play as female Eivor and sometimes you'll play as male Eivor. So far then I switched to male Eivor because I think I like having in these type of games like playing as like a sort of a set character. Kind of like in Origins you played as Bayek, and Odyssey you could play as Cassandra or Alexios. So I'm gonna stick with male Eivor for now and see how I feel about that. And if maybe I'll change later and go to female. I like that they have the option, but I think and I'm curious, I guess, about especially Cam, since he's way further ahead in the game, just how you feel about Eivor as a character and whether you like him or her, compared to some of the other characters that have been in past Assassin's Creed games. Because for me, I think having that option of having a character that could be flexible based on their gender, I think is interesting. It's cool that like you have that ability, but I also do feel like it makes Eivor kind of feel flat to me compared to other, again, because they're accounting for a character that could be either gender. So It's like, Bayek had a very strong identity and was a character that I really loved. Like I think Bayek is like one of my favorite characters in the series, and I love Cassandra so far from what I played in Odyssey. But again, I think because they have like a set identity, it's easier for them to write around that and sort of have a personality for them. So I guess especially Cam, I think what do you think about that?
I think that's a fair point, Ryan. Because I started playing like the default just to like, yeah, again, just to kind of see. When I did the preview, I played as male Eivor, or Eivor, and I really liked him. I really liked the performance. And then, like Peter said, I started as female Eivor, and I realized pretty quickly. No offense to the VO on that one, but like I thought that male Eivor's performance was much better. And so I switched over to male Eivor the rest of the way. And, regarding what you said about like that sense of identity, I think for me, and I think part of it is just like, I think that Eivor is a very well written character. He definitely, just using the pronouns based off what I been playing as, he definitely he definitely grows, and he goes through a lot of changes and decisions that he has to make, and because I really like Bayek too. Like after Ezio, I think Bayek was definitely like my favorite after playing Origins. But I think that like as far as I am, and there's still like so much to go through, and I will also say this right now that like there's the reason why I think that this is like the best Assassin's Creed game and like since Brotherhood is because this is the first Assassin's Creed game as an Assassin's Creed game that like has surprised me, whether it be with its narrative or like the direction it goes. Like I really like there's so many surprises in this game that like it would just be it would just be rude to spoil. It would just be like wrong to say. It's kind of like the stuff like I won't go to the same, I wouldn't say it's at the exact same level, but like it's kind of like going into God of War and like what you would expect in God of War. Assassin's Creed Valhalla definitely has those type of moments. You know, there are some things where it's like, oh, we knew that this was going to happen in the game before the game came out, but to the degree that the team at Ubisoft Montreal went with it was very surprising. And I was just like, wow, like I was actually just like, wow, like, and not to go into spoilers, but like this game has the best leap of faith in the entire series. Like,
interesting.
Incredible. And I think that, yeah. So like with Eivor, the thing that I think that makes it so interesting, like them as a character is that, because their goal in the game is to establish a settlement, gain alliances with other regions and kings and other political figures and things like that, so that if they ever need help, they can call on them and like whether they need army or anything like that. And I think that they're the stories of each arc and how Eivor fits in them, like all of them I think are really well done in ways that make sense, and they're very diverse in what the story is. Like there's one where it's like, oh, we need to dethrone this king to get this guy on the throne so that they'll pledge the allegiance to me. And like it's like one of those things like where he doesn't particularly say whether or not like he's like oh, I like think that this is ethical, or I think that this is philosophically correct. Like he's just like trying to protect his family. He's trying to do what he needs to do. And the thing is that like he's not even really technically the leader.
Right.
It's his brother Sigurd, but he's like doing he's doing other stuff, and like when he's gone away from the settlement, Eivor's in charge. So and there is like this friction that happens throughout the game with Eivor and other characters at the settlement, based off of like them thinking that like, oh, he's trying to take Sigurd's power away, or oh, this and that, and there are like there are consequences for that, and it's really, really, again, like this game has surprised me numerous times. Whether it been be location or like story moments, plot twists, like there's a lot here, and it's incredibly well written for an Assassin's Creed game. It's just like the first narrative that I've since like Brotherhood, where I actually like I'll find myself remembering like what happens throughout the story like in years to come, like where it'll be like, oh
sure.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly what happens in this game because of just how memorable it is. So
totally agree with you. Something that was surprising to me is looking at the games that I've played that came out this year, or that I am also planning on playing that are going to be coming out later this year, as the year is not over yet, and it seems like we've got some pretty strong Game of the Year contenders sort of in the next 2 months here. I was not thinking that this would be in like my top 10 list of best games that I played this year, because again, for me, like I have sort of viewed a lot of the Assassin's Creed games that have come out in the past, 5 years or so, as, well, okay, it's just another Assassin's Creed game where you sort of know what you're going to get. It's going to be, in the same way that a lot of Ubisoft's games sort of feel very similar. But I would say that I have been completely surprised by how much I actually do like this game, and how much that, to exactly your point, that I think I'm probably going to remember about this game in the next, however many years, or even, to me, I feel like this game might be the game that in recent memory, all other Assassin's Creed games are going to be compared to, just with how much I'm actually liking it. So if I'm reading the room properly, I would say that, I mean, obviously, Cam, you are positive on it. You say that you give it like a 9, and are planning on giving it a 9 in the review that will be up probably earlier today, or when you're watching this.
The day that you're watching this, it should be live. Yeah.
And so Ryan, it to me, it sounds like you're pretty positive on it, but are you feeling just as positive, or where are you sort of at with that?
I mean, I think it's hard for me because obviously, like, I'm not far enough in the game yet. I think to really have like a solid, because again, like, I think like so far from what I played, it's good. Like, I really like it, and I think it definitely, like Cam said, and I like what both of you said, like, just it does, like, I think build off a lot of the foundation that we saw in like Origins and Odyssey of like taking the series more into this sort of like RPG-ish direction, giving players like a lot of options as far as like how they explore the world and how they complete missions and experience the story. But I think, I mean, like, partially also, like, I like the setting a lot because like I've just like had sort of an interest in, like, especially after games like God of War and things like that, like sort of in the Viking era and the Norse mythology sort of things. Especially because I went to Iceland a couple years ago, and I went to some museums getting to see Viking, like, history and stuff like that. So I think it is cool to like see some of what I've seen there, like, reflected in the game. And yeah, like, I'm definitely, like, again, I'm too early, I think, to necessarily be like it's amazing or anything like that, but like so far I'm pretty positive about it. I think it's a really solid Assassin's Creed game.
Awesome. Okay, so now that has been established that we all like this game, I would also, similar to you, Ryan, I'm not so far in it, but I would say if you have been burned by other Assassin's Creed games in the past, I would recommend playing this one, because I have been burned by the past 5 or so years of Assassin's Creed games. So I would recommend that you dip your toes into this one. But Cam, you had said sort of at the beginning of all of this, you said you were sort of on the fence between 9 and a 9.5. And obviously the scale of reviewing things is not a perfect system, but I think it works pretty well to give a general sense of how we feel about it. So what has been stopping you from, what stopped you from giving it that 9.5?
Yeah. So I just want to say, like, the things that I think that are really great about this game.
Go ahead.
Again, narrative, like, definitely by far the best it's been in a very long time. It, like, they know what we want, like, Assassin's Creed fans want from Assassin's Creed games. Like, you assassinate people. There's no like BS, like, you know, like in Odyssey and even in Origins. There's assassination damage, sure, but like at the end of the day, like, if it's like a random grunt, you can assassinate. If it's like a named guy, depending on how high your power is, you either auto assassinate or you do the advanced assassination skill once you get it.
Right.
They bring back like Sean and Rebecca from the from outside the Animus, and there are files with Desmond audio, like things like, because for those that didn't play, like the main character Desmond Miles, like he got killed off in Assassin's Creed 3, which has sucks.
Right.
Because I'm one of the people, like, Assassin's Creed is one of my favorite franchises. Like, it's probably in my top 5. Like, I really, really liked the outside aspects of Assassin's Creed. I know a lot of people didn't, but I did. So
like the present day stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And yeah, so there were like files like where Desmond was talking about like his experiences with Ezio and Connor and things like that. I was like, this is so cool. Like, this is what, granted, like, Desmond's not going to come back, but this is still like something, because like because especially in Odyssey, like, there was nothing. Like, it was really disappointing in my opinion. Yeah. And so, so that was great. And yeah, again, narrative's great. Eivor, my favorite assassins since Ezio, for sure. I think that he is a better character than Bayek. I think that Bayek is a really interesting character, and he has a lot of flaws, and is a really compelling character. But I think that Eivor, I think that there's more layers to him, and just his progression as a character has definitely been stronger so far. Again, the game has surprised me. Like, again, that's huge. And the boss battles, I really want to talk about boss battles. They're great. Like, they're great. They're really, really good. They're somewhat similar to to the big boss battles that you experience in Odyssey, which aren't many, but there are these like big boss battles where like the name is up top and there's a big ass health bar on the top of the screen. And they do bring that back, but it's a lot more common. And there's like a stun system in this game now. So like once the stun bar's gone, you can do a stun attack that'll either auto kill or do a lot of damage. And they're just and then the bosses are actually like well-designed boss fights where like I kind of feel like I'm playing potentially like a Soulsborne type game at times, like because you can die really easily, because one of the new things that they brought in is that you just don't auto heal. You have to get food, and you have to collect food, and then you have rations, and then you eat your rations to heal, and then you can store some for up to a certain point. You can upgrade that through the game, which I think is I like it because it makes it complements the combat.
Yeah.
Because again, you can die really easily. And granted, like I'm playing it on hard mode, which is something we can talk about with accessibility features later, because there's a lot to talk about there. That's really great. The abilities are great. The executions are brutal. Like in the beginning, I was kind of worried because I felt like that the executions were getting really repetitive with the same like type of executions. But it definitely expands as you get farther along in the game, and some of them are just absolutely brutal. Like one of my favorite ones is that which is with an ability, is like you harpoon someone, and then Eivor like jumps out of the way as the guy's coming towards him, and then he just decapitates him from the back. And it's just like while the dude's coming towards the screen, and it's all in slow motion. It's awesome. The combat's great. So the reason why I can't give it a 9 or 9.5 is just too many bugs I've run into.
Oh yeah.
I know that you guys said that you didn't really run into much, but like there's like, and granted, this is kind of like your general Assassin's Creed jank, like ever since Origins, even Syndicate, like these kind of things are in all of those games. Like you'll fall and you'll land somewhere where you're not supposed to land, so you'll just kind of be like falling and stuff, and then you'll just die eventually. So that's happened to me like twice already. What else have I run into? I've run into enough, but like you'll like kill someone and their body will fly away, right? But then the game will still initiate an execution. So like there's literally no body there.
Okay.
And Eivor's still like executing this person. And then there's like some ways you can kill people. Like that harpoon thing I talked about. And then they'll be dead. They won't be decapitated. They don't always get decapitated when they die, but like they'll be dead. They'll stand up just to fall down dead again. You know what I mean? Sure. So it's just too many like technical issues in that sense. Like, granted, there's going to be a day one patch, that might fix things, but it's like I was telling Logan Moore, who's our review editor, like a day or two ago, I was like, man, this is like one of those few games where I wish that there was like a 9.25, because I definitely think it deserves that, but I just can't give it a 9.5. Like unless this game goes to places like in parts unknown that I've never seen an Assassin's Creed game before, I'm not going to give it a 9.5 by the time I'm done with it. But who knows? We'll see. But
9 is still a really solid score, and
a 9.
I think we gave Odyssey a 9, so it's at least as good as Odyssey. Yeah.
I definitely think it's much better than Odyssey, but like that's neither here nor there. We're not getting into that discussion. You can listen to our Assassin's Creed ranking video for that. I think it, and I definitely think, even though I don't think it is game of the year, I definitely think it should be in the conversation.
Absolutely.
I definitely think the quality is there. It definitely, it will 100% be in my top 10. It might even be in my top 5 by the end of the year. It's ranking really highly on my personal top 10 right now, and I'm not even done with the game. It's incredible. So that's kind of like my overall thoughts.
Okay, gotcha. So Ryan, how about you? Has there been anything that stands out to you as like, well, maybe I'm not loving this, or what have you?
I mean, it's mostly gonna depend, I guess, on like how far I get into it. Like, again, I'm probably gonna play the majority of this on PS5 once that comes in next week. So, but like so far I'm enjoying it. I don't know if it will be in my game of the year consideration yet, but I think there's definitely a chance for it to maybe be there. If I'm able to get further into it or get finish it by the end of the year, we'll see what happens. I don't know if I will, because just like I can imagine that game is enormous and it's gonna take a while. Like I obviously want to spend my time with some of the next gen games coming, like Miles Morales and Demon's Souls and all of them. But I can say it's very solid. It's very good so far. I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to definitely playing more of it with the next gen launch and see where it goes from there.
Sure. So if I may, you look like you have something to say, Cam.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I should have said this earlier. I am reviewing this on Xbox One X. I'm not playing this on any next gen hardware,
right?
Because we didn't get one. But I will, I'll have plenty of more game to play after this. After this review, and I am getting into Series X and S for that matter at launch. So I definitely will get to see it in its all its glory. And I will say that I have been playing it on a 4K TV, or at least I started to. When the election started, I kind of brought it out to my 1440p monitor, and it was kind of like multitasking. But I will say that this game is stunning in 4K. It's definitely great. I wouldn't say that it's the best looking game this year, but it's very, very close. It's very great. 1440p, not as much, but when you get to that 4K HDR, it's gorgeous. And one other thing I wanted to mention that I think that about what I really like about this game that I don't want to forget about is that they brought back Templars. Templars are back.
Oh, yes.
In kind of a big way too, because they are basically the bad organization. They're not, they're not called Templars, but they are called the Order of the Ancients, which is another, for those who have played through the series, they have been called by that before. And it's kind of like the cultist system in Odyssey. So they're basically unknown figures, and some of them are you fight via the story, but then you get clues by killing these things called zealots that are basically these big ass Templar soldiers that are incredibly hard to kill. It tells you oh, this person's suggested power level is 90. And I fought one at power level 130, and I still got my ass kicked. These boss battles are hard.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically give you clues. And what's cool is again, each main person of the Templars that you kill, not the zealots particularly, but the other figures, you get a white room conversation with them, and it's it's so good. They're short, but they're so good. And then the ones in the main story are really, really good.
Yeah,
it's great. So that was another big thing that I think that a lot of Assassin's Creed fans are going to be happy to see.
I feel like I've played the first several hours of I think every Assassin's Creed game. I missed Origins, but the first 3 to 5 hours of Syndicate and Odyssey, and I'm forgetting the ones that were in between there. What was the one in France? Was that Syndicate?
Unity.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I assume they get more into the order of assassins and everything like that as you get a little bit further into those games. But I feel like what's great about this one is it's reminding you hey, remember the assassins from the title Assassin's Creed? They're in it this time, which is cool. And this happens obviously very early on, so I wouldn't say that this is a spoiler or anything like that. But you meet up with your brother Sigurd comes home, and he brings 2 assassins that are dressed in I don't remember where exactly they're from, but they look like they are
Sentinels, where they came back, where they came from.
Yeah, sure. So they are dressed in the garb from the older games. I mean, I think they are wearing pretty much the same thing as Altair from the first one, and I think he was in Revelations too. But the point is, seeing them, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that they're in these games, because I feel like a lot of the other ones have sort of been less centralized and less focused on that particular overarching story than this one is, which I think is pretty awesome. I will say this: the one thing that I don't necessarily love about this game, and perhaps it's just because I'm early on in it, and maybe it gets better, So either correct me if I'm wrong, or if it's a spoiler, don't really, you know how it is, Cam. I think that the way that this game handles violence is a little tone deaf is the wrong word. It's a little odd to me. So you do all these raids to establish your settlement and to make your settlement bigger, and it oftentimes feels kind of bad and wrong when you're just going down the river to just destroy just a settlement just because you want their resources. And I understand that, like, you know, it's a video game, but at the end of the day, it also is like, okay, this was just a random town that was just going about their day peacefully, and then we showed up and just stole all their stuff. You know what I'm saying? You have something to say?
Yeah, I mean that's that's totally valid, but also that's like what Vikings did, you know?
Right.
Like, you know, so and the thing is, like, you know, you still, like, you can't kill citizens. If you kill like too many citizens, all the ones I have killed, complete accident. Like, they're just like in the middle of my, like, they just like somehow get in the middle of my attack. And I'm like, oh, sorry, you will get desynchronized. You know, like, so it's just one of those things. Like, they don't really want to, like, they don't harm like innocent civilians or anything like that. And I think that's kind of like I think that's one of the great things about Eivor's character, is that, like, at the end of the day, he just wants to make sure that his people are good. You know what I mean? Like with all these things that he helps with, like these people he helped throughout the game, like, he's just like, he's not like bland about it, like, oh, okay, I'll do this. But he is just, like, you know, that his goal at the end of the day is to get what he needs to make sure that, you know, his settlement is safe, his people are safe, and he can, you know, they can live without any issues.
Right. It just, for me, it makes me always like wonder, like, hey, are we the good guys here? You know, because like we just show up and like people are screaming and grabbing their children and running out of their houses, and it's like, I don't know if this feels right. Like,
it's definitely an interesting viewpoint. Yeah, it's because the thing, if you think about it, is that, like, you're basically you're stealing from this town, but like it's just like whoever, like, the king on top is, you know. There's different kingdoms, like, throughout the map and things like that. So, like, I totally valid in what you're saying. And it does, like, but it's just like in the position that you're in as a Viking, like, that's what Vikings did, like,
right.
And I think that they don't just do that stuff just to do it. Like, they do implement things, again, like with Eivor's character and other things that, like, make it seem justified. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, question for both of you then. So, I plan on I'm playing this on the like OG Xbox One, which is a miracle that thing is still kicking and alive.
Oh man!
I know.
You gotta get a big upgrade then when you go next gen. So
I am, and I mean, this is not relevant or important, but I haven't been able to secure a pre-order of anything, which makes sense because I was way late to that game. But we'll get there probably by the end of the year? Question mark. I'm not holding my breath, but what I'm trying to say is I plan on continuing to play this for the next. I'm probably planning on seeing it through to the end of the story. I'm not typically a 100% completion guy, especially with a game as large and massive as this. I know, Ryan, you had said that you are planning on you dipped your toes in a little bit on the, you know, you're playing on also base Xbox One. Is that correct?
Base PS4.
Oh, PS4. That's correct. And so you are planning on continuing to play it through the upgrade. What is the end game for you when playing a game like this?
So actually with Origins, I like basically almost pretty much like 99 to 100%.
Really?
Everything in that game. Yeah, I did like I did like everything in the base game. I did the expansions, all of that. Odyssey, I probably will do. So this I'm definitely gonna at least play through excuse me, the main story, and I'm sure I'll do some of the side stuff. I'll see how much I enjoy it. If I definitely like it as much as Origins and Odyssey, like I'll definitely try to especially because if I'm gonna play this at launch, I don't have a ton of other games I'm gonna be playing. Like it'll be definitely a game that will last you a while. So
Yeah.
And then obviously they've said that they're gonna have expansions for this game too. There's gonna be new like story stuff coming after launch. So I'll definitely be planning to continue to play through it once next gen hits.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And then Cam, you had said that, so you said you're like 55 hours in?
Like just at 60 hours.
Okay, cool. How much of it would you say you have completed? Because you said you're not done with the story, but like in terms of like side stuff, is there still a lot to do?
I would say like including so where I'm at in the story, I'm pretty close to the end. Like I wouldn't say like I'm there, but I'm pretty close to the end. And then I think I cleared out like maybe 3 or 4 regions, like just kind of completely, that I could. But then I think there's like, I want to say that there's like 10 to 12 regions throughout the game. So I would say that I'm like not even like halfway complete if I were to like 100% the game, if that makes sense.
Got it.
Yeah, because I know that Ubisoft Montreal said that they wanted to make sure that this game was like a smaller experience than Odyssey, but it feels just as big.
Sure.
If you're asking me,
So then, similar to what I asked Ryan, are you the kind of person who, for a game like this, are you someone who goes for 100% completion, or are you sort of done when you get to the like conclusion of the story?
I think with this game, I will try to fully build my settlement. I'll try and get as many achievements as I can that don't feel like a huge time investment, because I do like achievements, and I will clear out the Order of the Ancients, and then after that, we'll see. I'll definitely come back for the DLC. I actually really need to play the DLC for like all 3 of the games, Origins, Odyssey, and as well. But yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do at the very least, because normally there's like more story that comes in once you like when you clear out the cultists in Odyssey. I've been told, I haven't gotten to do that yet, like there's more story there. And then I'm sure that the same thing will be with like the Order of the Ancients, because like you said, with Basim and Hytham, the assassins, which I also forgot to like mention, it's great, is that like like kind of like you said, the Creed is actually there, and there's actual like there's some like really great conversations with Eivor and Basim specifically, who's kind of like the lead of the two. Haytham's more of his apprentice, about like trusting people, and like what this Creed, like why the Creed matters and things like that throughout the, and a certain point in the game. Again, great stuff. That I think that I'm really interested to see what is going to happen once I clear out all the Templars.
Yeah, sure. I hopefully am gonna play this to the end of the story. It for me personally, it always comes down to like, well, what else is coming out? What else do I have my eye on? Again, I wasn't maybe anticipating liking this game so much, so I was sort of thinking like, I'll play it for 5-6 hours for our discussion and whatever, and maybe I'll keep going depending on that. But it's gotten to the point where I'm like, actually, this is pretty good.
I feel like when I get frustrated with Demon Souls, I'm gonna switch over to this game when I'm just.
I will say that like I'm very happy I reviewed this game, because like normally I would not have, if knowing that like I played 60 hours in like a week, basically, that would have taken me probably a few months if I were to just play it normally. And Assassin's Creed Valhalla was going to be the first game I was going to play, but like I've kind of
forever to finish.
Yeah, I've been like taking, I haven't really been writing, because I just know that how big this game was. I was like, I gotta just sit down and play this game, so that so I experience everything I need to experience. And like if I didn't review this game, like I would have felt like very overwhelmed with Miles Morales coming out, and like Kingdom Hearts is coming out next week as well. Like Yakuza, there's so many games, Cyberpunk next month, that like I probably would not have been able to finish Valhalla But like now, I'll get to a point where I can comfortably drop it for now, get through the, win the holiday lineup, and then come back and finish what I wanted to finish.
Sure. No, that totally makes sense. And I would say I'm in a similar boat where it's like, I mean, I like what you said, Ryan, about like Demon Souls. Like, I think that this game is a perfect palate cleanser for the frustrations of Demon Souls.
Although actually, like the combat, like I don't think we mentioned before, like the combat is like fairly Souls-like. So, but it's, it's definitely less demanding, I think, than something like that. Yeah.
Well, I think that the difference is in Dark Souls or Bloodborne or Sekiro, whatever From Software game you prefer, Demon Souls is the newest one coming out. And aren't they doing another one, Elden Ring? Or is that
Elden Ring? Yeah.
It's not coming out this year, though, is it?
No,
we don't know anything about it.
We haven't even seen that game.
I was gonna say, right.
First, the results.
That game doesn't exist. That game doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, until the election got called, I was gonna say what comes first, the election results or Elden Ring. So.
Well, hey, there's still time today. But anyway, I think that because the combat is so similar, a lot of like blocking, parrying, and that kind of thing, attacking with the bumpers, light attack, heavy attack kind of thing. I think that this game will pair quite well with it because, I mean, in those types of games, if you're not fighting people one-on-one or dealing with smaller groups of enemies, you're probably kind of hosed. Whereas with this game, you run into a big tower full of people and you're like, come fight me. It's like way different. It definitely makes you feel a lot more powerful than maybe.
I think we've mentioned it before, but I think like they did a really good job. I think with like the combat, because like combat in Assassin's Creed games, I've been very mixed on. Like some games, like the older games, I was not necessarily like a huge fan of like the original combat system in those games, and then like Origins honestly had a little bit of a better system, but it still was a little janky. So I think definitely they found a better balance. I think of like the older style Assassin's Creed combat systems, and then the newer system they introduced in Origins and Odyssey.
Well, to your point, I think that they've sort of made the transition from stealth, because I think those first few were pretty stealth heavy, to more of an action setting. I don't think that's bad at all. In fact, I think that it suits the play style of this game quite well. But I think that now that they have made that transition into action, when you do that, you have to make sure that your combat's really good. And I would say that the combat in this game definitely doesn't feel flighty in the way that I felt that it has in the past several games. And I agree with what Cam said earlier about boss fights and how those feel like they have a pretty, like they got oomph to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, weight to them for sure.
Yeah. Combat feels definitely much like heavier, and like because obviously you're these big Vikings with like axes and stuff like that. That's not necessarily going to be like Sekiro or something like that, where it's gonna be like really fast paced.
Right.
Yeah, and I was gonna say one other thing that I really want to get across is that this is the first Assassin's Creed game in a long time where like I feel like an assassin again, like an actual like there's so much like room to hide, like specifically like with the recurve bow, you're just like trying to just headshot at like guys in the bushes and stuff like that. It's so satisfying, like the gameplay, like in such a long time. It's really great.
I totally agree. So are there any sort of final thoughts that we have before we sort of wrap this discussion up? Is there anything else either of you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add really quick regarding the accessibility options that are really cool. Is that there's difficulties for combat, stealth, and exploration, like separate difficulties, which is really, really cool. Because for me, like, I'm not the biggest fan of the whole like, oh, you have to get to the node to see the moat to see like what the actual thing is.
Right.
And at least for the mysteries, that is. And I can see a lot of people not being super down with that either. And the easy difficulty doesn't make that go away, but it makes it a lot. You can get a lot of. You can find out what it is from a lot farther away, if that makes sense. Which is really nice.
Yeah.
So like, because for me, I'm playing the game combat hard because I just generally like a challenge in my games. Stealth, I'm doing normal because I'm not great at stealth, but I'm not I'm not terrible either. And then I'm doing normal exploration because it's just like kind of like the way that the game was kind of meant to be played, and for lack of a better term. And another thing actually that is worth mentioning is that you can turn off the advanced assassination thing, where you can literally just assassinate anyone that isn't a boss battle.
Wow, cool.
There is that option in the accessibilities in the options, but they do say like, hey, this is not the way the game is supposed to be experienced, or like, was meant to be experienced. So just keep that in mind. I didn't turn it off personally or turn it on. I'm playing the game like, again, like how they designed it to be played of sorts. But it's cool that it's there for those that just want to be able to assassinate everyone and move on. So
I think that the addition, especially because when you start up the game, it says, let's talk about the settings here. I love that. And I like that has sort of become much more commonplace now in games. I mean, not to say that accessibility options haven't been around forever, because they have, but I would say that just how granular it's starting to get is such a great thing. And that's a discussion that is not about, that is a discussion for a different day. But I really did appreciate just how, I mean, not even from a gameplay perspective, that this game talks about accessibility, but even like for content settings, there is an option to play this game without any blood, which I think would be very interesting. Or I haven't come across any sort of like nudity or anything like that, but they also say, you can turn that off as well. And even modes for like people who are colorblind and have different, I clicked on those to see like, well, what does that actually change? And there are different modes for different types of people who are colorblind. I don't know much about that, but I can imagine that people who have these different preferences, I can imagine that would be pretty awesome and pretty great to see in such a big budget game.
Yeah, no, I mean, like Ubisoft is a company that has been really pushing for accessibility. Like, Ben Bayless, one of our writers, and he's also over at Can I Play That, the accessibility website. That like Ubisoft has been pushing for more accessibility options and making their games, more accessible to a wider range of players based on, if they have like a specific disability or something like that. So I think that's, obviously Valhalla from what I've seen, has a lot of those options in place, like the colorblind mode, the different difficulty settings. And I haven't played Watch Dogs yet, but I'm sure Watch Dogs also, probably has similar options. Oh, yeah. And I mean, obviously, like not every studio necessarily has the resources of Ubisoft, which literally has like hundreds, if not thousands, of developers across the world. But again, I think it's a good trajectory of, especially for these types of AAA games, like seeing the range of accessibility options that they're putting in their games.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any final thoughts from you as well, Ryan?
No, I mean, again, I think it's like obviously like I have a ways to go playing this game, but so far from what I've played, I'm enjoying it. I think it's another solid entry in the series so far, and I'm especially excited to play it. I think as like part of the launch lineup for the PS5 and the Series X. I'm going to be playing it I'm going to be playing on PS5.
Sure.
I'm just excited to see, and even on PS4, like it's for the most part, it's run pretty fine. I've had occasional like frame rate drops and some bugs, things like that. Obviously, just playing on a 7-year-old console now. But it's a solid game. It plays well, and I'm excited to see see more of it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I would say that I don't think that there could be a better Assassin's Creed game to have at the launch of these consoles. I think that this is going to be a pretty good move by Ubisoft and just having it available right at launch. So, Cam, where can we find you? Where can we find your work? Where can we find this review? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at the Cinephile Guy, and I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/the Cinephile Guy, and all my writings over at DualShockers, DualShockers.com, and DualShockers on Twitter at DualShockers.
All right, great. And then Ryan, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter, just my name, Ryan Meitzler, and just keep an eye on DS as far as stuff for Assassin's Creed. We're also gonna have a ton of next gen stuff coming next week to go along with the systems, so keep an eye out for that.
Awesome, and you can find me on Twitter at PETERSPITTECH. That is how you phonetically pronounce my name. I know there was some discourse about all of that, and you can also find my work. I think by the time this video goes up, which will be on the 10th, is that right?
The 9th, I think.
The 9th. Okay. Okay, well then on the 10th, you can catch my review of the Pathless. That is that is the game from Giant Squid Games. They made Abzu, and I am excited to be talking about that as well. So you can find that on DualShockers.com, or the video review for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, or all of our other videos at YouTube.com/DualShockers. So we will catch you next time. Thanks so much for watching.